Hey guys, Mark Nice here with Nice Photography, and today we're talking about the Milky Way. No, not that Milky Way. This Milky Way. The Milky Way galaxy is where Earth calls home, and it expands an enormous 80,000 light years in diameter and has over 100 billion stars within it. That is a lot of stars. Now, as a photographer, if you can capture this and add it to your portfolio, well, let's just say it's really going to make your work stand out. Now, you might be thinking, hey, that's great, that's really cool, but I don't have the gear for that. I don't know how to Photoshop that kind of thing. Well, it's actually a lot easier than you would think. Today, I'm going to show you in 3 steps how you can photograph the Milky Way using some very basic gear. So, let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, let's talk about the gear that you're going to need in order to capture these photos. First thing, a camera. Okay, I know it sounds obvious, so let me clarify. You need a camera that can shoot manually, or in M mode, if you will. Simply, what this does is it allows you to control the settings of your camera, where an automatic camera or an automatic settings aren't designed to take these types of photos. Another great thing that you want to have before you go out shooting stars is an app called Skyview. What this does when you download it to your phone, it allows you to use your phone as a map of the stars. And this way you can actually find where the Milky Way galaxy is. It's very handy for finding planets, solar systems, anything out there that's in the space. It's going to show you and give you lots of good information. It's a free app. They come on both Android and Apple phones. I suggest adding it to your phone today. So, with that said, let's get started. Okay, now that you got your gear, let's talk about where you're going to go shoot. Location plays a key role in taking proper photos of the Milky Way galaxy. There's something that we need to consider that you may not ever consider when taking photos, and that is light pollution. You might be thinking, what is light pollution? Light pollution is when a light from a major source, such as a city, overruns your camera's sensor and overexposes your photo before the light from the stars will actually reach your camera. Now, the easiest way around this is to simply travel outside the distance that light reaches. Now, normally, a good rule of thumb is to go an hour outside of your city. If you're still not sure where the best place to go, you want to look online for light pollution maps. There's a bunch of different free ones on the website. You can just Google real quickly and it'll show you the areas that are darkest and lightest. The darker the area, the better quality your photos are going to be because there's going to be less light pollution. So, you traveled outside an hour, you got your camera gear, you're all ready to go, right? Well, not quite yet. We still got a couple more things to consider. Another major source of light pollution that you need to think about is the moon. Now, the moon can be just as bad, if not worse, than a small city. It produces a lot of light. Well, actually, it gets the light from the sun and reflects it back on us, but I'm not getting into that. It produces a lot of light, especially in the full moon phase. So the easiest way to go around this is wait for the new moon phase to come, or wait for the moon to set. Just like the sun, it has a set and rise time, and this information can be found on apps or just by a simple Google search. Now, one last thing that you always need to take into consideration is the weather. Our cameras are great these days, but they can't shoot through clouds just yet. So wait for a clear night, wait for no moon, and travel at least an hour outside the city. At that point, you should be all set and ready to go. So let's move on to the actual settings of shooting these photos. Okay, so you got your gear, you're at your location, you're away from light pollution, you're all set. So what do? Okay, first thing you want to do is pull out your phone and use that app. Locate where the Milky Way galaxy is at. Now keep in mind that the Earth is constantly moving and rotating. So over the night, the stars will actually be moving in location. And so depending on what time of night you go, the Milky Way will be in a different location. So if it's all low or on the horizons, and you want to wait a couple hours, it'll probably be a little higher up. So find the location with your phone. Now, okay, so once you locate the Milky Way and you know where it's at, let's talk about your camera. you want to use the widest lens that you have. If you have a DSLR or a micro four thirds, which are interchangeable lenses, use the widest one. If you have the 18-55 kit lens that just came with the camera, zoom out to 18 so you have the widest that you can. Now, when it comes to shutter speed, this is a little bit tricky. We're going to use what's called the 500 rule. This is where you take your focal length and you use it divided by 500. So you take 500 divided by 18, and this is going to give you the ideal time to keep your shutter open. Now you might be thinking, well, why does it matter how long it's open if as long as it's exposed? Because you talked about before, the Earth is constantly moving, and if you leave it open too long, that rotating of the stars and all the planets and everything will actually blur your photo. It's kind of a crazy thing to think about, but hey, that's science for you. So keep in mind the 500 rule, get your ideal range in there. Now let's talk about aperture. Aperture is simple. You want to keep it as low as possible to let in the most light. Most cameras can be f3 or f4. If you have a higher end lens, it's going to be an f2.8 and so on. For ISO, you want to keep it between 1600 and 3200 depending on your camera and depending on your location and how bright it is. Keep in mind, all these settings are not set in stone. If you need to adjust some, go a little higher or go a little lower. Feel free to explore and see what works best for you. Now we're all set and ready to go. Okay, not just quite yet. There's one more big step that we need to think about that a lot of people often forget, and that is photo editing. You're going to take a photo of the Milky Way and be like, hey, I got the photo, but the Milky Way doesn't stand out like all these cool photos online. That's because it takes a little bit of editing. There's lots of tutorials online that'll show you how to do this, so I'm not going to get into that today. But just some simple editing, brighten up the photo, add some contrast and some clarity, and it'll really bring out that Milky Way and get the photo that you desire. So now that you know all this, go out there, shoot some photos, and let me know how it goes. But before you do that, make sure you like and subscribe so you can see more videos coming your way. Have a good one.